In the trailer released last week for the new Captain America movie, Captain America Brave New World, a crowd member attacks Harrison Ford's newly elected President Ross, who also happens to be a white, male, presidential figure with white hair. Now, why would we be getting a sense of deja vu? Could it be that this happened in the real world last week as well? Let the record show, this trailer dropped a single day before the real-life parallel. It's no surprise this has caught the attention of Marvel fans, with one writing on Twitter, "In the trailer that released yesterday, the president played by Harrison Ford is fired at by a hired killer that is being mind-controlled." Now, I don't think the real-life scenario was identical, mind you, but an argument could be made. It's left some folks arguing that this could be predictive programming, a conspiracy theory claiming that the government, the Illuminati, or the elites are using mass media as a method of mind control. This is done by sending out hidden messages to brainwash viewers and make us more accepting of planned events in the future. Let the record show, this movie doesn't hit theaters until February 14th of next year, but it's still pretty wild. During the 2016 election, a lot of folks noticed parallels between reality and Captain America Civil War, and Jimmy Kimmel had plenty to say about it. I swear we will indeed talk about other Marvel properties today. Just wait. In Kimmel's words, both of them feature friends who are now enemies. They both feature powerful men and women who are also cartoon characters, and there's a lot of interest in both. In his version, the freedom-loving Captain America is Bernie Sanders, railing against billionaires and big money. Billionaire industrialist Iron Man is billionaire capitalist Orange Cheeto, talking about how rich he is and how they both favor intense regulations for specific populations. Hillary Clinton is Scarlet Witch, and Ben Carson is Spider-Man. Just trying to be involved, eager beaver. 2016 actually had at least 3 films come out that beautifully conveyed exactly what was going down, politically speaking. 4 if you count Hell or High Water, said to dramatically depict the plight of working Americans who, feeling ignored by Obama, would soon vote for the big billionaire. 13 Hours kicked off the year with a searing indictment of whoever it was in our government that prevented our military apparatus from providing the support that other folks needed. When the other 2 movies, both superhero films, came out, well, they perfectly paralleled a certain feud raging in the political sphere. Of course, they came out during the heat of primary season, and frankly, the Democrat side was pretty placid and quiet. At least compared to the stuff going down on the other end. Now, these 2 films were of course Batman vs Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Captain America, Civil War. Just to be clear, the clash that reverberated throughout the conservative movement wasn't a point-for-point parallel to those cinematic clashes per se, but the issues raised in those films, more blatantly in Civil War, point to a rift long simmering in conservatism, beginning roughly in the Bush era. Tensions simmered, then more or less settling down in the Obama years. The Tea Party serving to reconcile things, more or less. It took the clashes of 2016 for the tensions to erupt once again, albeit for somewhat different reasons, though they arguably do connect. And remember, in The Winter Soldier, we already saw how Hydra took S.H.I.E.L.'s noble agenda of security and corrupted it into tyranny, just as Obama took the Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld security apparatus and corrupted it into, well, what we know today, forcing us to make strange bedfellows with, you know, some folks kind of like Edward Snowden. After Bucky was first captured, Cap even notes he's willing to relent, providing the Accords get amended. But then he quickly changes his mind once he hears that Tony is keeping Wanda under house arrest. Such is the libertarian perspective, that they give up essential liberty for temporary security. Which, yikes! The question, of course, is what is essential? In a way, it's a tension that existed since the founding of the United States. The Team Iron Man of the day was the Federalists, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton. The Team Cap was the Democratic Republicans, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, both teams instrumental in the formation of the founding principles. Both sides heroic, noble, and American. One side just emphasized security and stability a bit more. The other one was more centered on liberty and autonomy. The left, as we know it today, only really showed up near the end of the 19th century, with the progressives. Here's a doozy that's actually been confirmed. Marvel said they removed a plotline from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier focused on the heroes rushing to stop a fast-spreading disease due to its similarities with real-world events. So one major criticism of this show was just like how poorly they handled the show's villains and the anti-heroes. John Walker is depicted in an overly antagonistic light, yet the material itself is actually far too sympathetic for this to work. Likewise, the Flag Smashers were seen as ill-defined, mind, namely in their goals and what they wished to accomplish. On top of that, they were rarely the threat they were made out to be. So with the Flag Smashers' deadliest act, an intentional viral mega crisis, removed from the series midway through, it kind of explains why certain elements of the plot seemed to not make sense. Since the series wanted audiences to sympathize with the Flag Smashers, unleashing a virus might have been a step too far. Current events or not. The show had a number of setbacks due to real-life problems. The political thriller starring Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan was a globe-spanning adventure involving a number of complex locations. And in a world that was restricted from travel, you can understand why that would be a yikes. Since some of the series was already filmed before the big global event, eagle-eyed fans can find elements of the storyline in the series that aired. When Sam and Bucky face the Flag Smashers in a thrilling sequence on a convoy of trucks, Bucky is clearly seen walking past containers emblazoned with signs that point to that missing storyline. The show keeps what these medicines were for kind of vague, and it worked as part of the new motivation of the so-called extremist group to bring supplies to people who were displaced after the blip returned those Thanos snapped away. Another possible remaining element of the pathogen plot comes from the character of Mama Donya, played by an incredible actor who appeared in just a few scenes. But it was a person who was very important to the series. She dies from an unnamed illness, and fans believe this was an element of that pathogen storyline. Either she was an unintended victim, or more likely, her death is what inspired the Flag Smashers to use biological warfare. Whether the storyline was removed for creative reasons or because it was in poor taste, it is just one of the ways that the real-life parallels affected Marvel Studios' plans after Endgame. After introducing Gravik as a villain with a purpose in the premiere, Secret Invasion failed to justify why the shapeshifter Skrull poses such a threat to humanity. Episode after episode, this guy lets his emotions get the best of him, while making rushed decisions that don't help his world domination plan. Like most of the series Skrulls, from time to time, Gravik even forgets he can shapeshift. Apparently the show was heavily refilmed and edited to avoid seeming like too explicit a parallel to the real-life Eastern European invasion. I have no idea what it originally looked like, and that might have been a wise call at the time, but the show bears all the signs of something really quickly re-edited. Multiple plotlines that go nowhere, a bizarrely inconsistent emotional core, we've got Fury and Talos' friendship, then we get Talos and his daughter, and then you get this big emotional scene as Fury and his wife, who we never met until 3 episodes prior, and a bafflingly rushed ending that is in extreme tonal conflict with everything else. But something else that survived the redos and the edits, a persecuted minority, driven out from everywhere by the pursuing forces, tries to integrate with the local human populace, but fearing rejection, intentionally and successfully infiltrates highly powerful institutions and positions in complete secret, with the goal of replacing the locals? Well, if you're going to replace the Skrulls and the humans with some other very choicy and controversial ideas, and this is pretty much exactly what extreme, well, conspiracy nuts think is happening. Certain folks are trying to replace people by seizing power in secret and pushing their agenda. And nobody at Marvel caught this? They describe this show as paranoid, but it doesn't just invoke an atmosphere of paranoia. It is kind of a parable taken from the most paranoid and hateful minds imaginable. I hope it was unintentional, but that is a lot of overlap for a coincidence. That's it for today, folks. Which parallel shocked you the most? Be sure to let us know in the comments.